Brittany's there. Janice is there. There's Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Get the memo to dress up.
Can you hear me, Rick? Rick, can you hear us?
Rick's talking. I can see his lips moving, but
Oh, he needs his headphones. Okay. Hi, Jesse. I guess you should.
Someone's whistling.
oh, there's somebody now.
And there's.
There's Caroline. Yep.
Two attachments. There was in the letter to their stakeholders explaining what they're asking for, and here's their draft letter
No.
that will be sent out to the province.
Close the door, Grace.
Guess we don't have a door opening.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Look, we've got it right. Okay.
While we're waiting, I watched the television show last night that was live streaming, and the guy was doing a cooking demonstration, and his son said, "Daddy, Daddy, come and get me." And he had to go and wipe the kid's bottom.
Oh, man.
Janice, are you talking to us?
She's on mute now.
Goodbye.
We're
Okay.
one, are we, or do I sign up?
So
individually?
if we can do a bit of a sound check with everybody, starting with Janice up there.
Yes, we are. Yeah, sorry.
Hi.
Okay. Alex?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes, that sounds good. Keith? Keith?
Can you hear me okay?
Very good, thank you. Cal?
Check, check.
Good, thank you. Jesse? Well, can you say a few more words, Jesse, please?
Okay, how's it going?
Good, okay, very good. Rick?
Buddy.
Oh, we're not hearing you, Rick.
Oh, no?
Oh, there you are.
There you are.
There you are. Thank you.
Okay.
Keith, did you have your hand up? You're just giving us a thumbs up.
Just letting people I know I can hear them.
You're okay. Everybody can hear. Okay, thank you. All right, folks. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. What about Brittany? We didn't hear from Brittany.
Can you guys not hear me?
There you are. There you are.
Brittany, it would be great.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my video up. I'm having some problems. I'm just trying to use it from my computer so I can be reading the material on my iPad. So
All right,
if it
okay.
doesn't, if I can't get it sorted out within a few moments, I will switch over to my iPad.
Okay, thanks very much. As long as you can hear us for now, that's good, and we can hear you. So, okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to start by saying we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Tanaha, the Silix, and the Sinix peoples, and is home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land, rivers, and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And I'm assuming everybody's on the same land now that I don't know about Cal, whose land he's on out there at the moment. So, but I'd say that probably covers you too, Cal, right? And with that, there's one late item, folks, and that is the letter from Mercer. You might have seen that today. Sarah sent that out in an email to you. And I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of the late item. Please. Moved by Jesse, second by Keith. All in favor? Okay, so this is a bit of a challenge. You're going to have to say aye or something because I can only see
Yeah.
I can only see three of you.
Can we get you guys to put your video back on, please?
I'm trying everything I can right now, Sarah.
Yeah. Thanks, Brittany,
Okay. Oh.
Councillor Anderson, but Councillor
Maybe just-
Renwick and Councillor Lautenberg, can you guys come back on so we can see you? Thanks.
There you are. Okay, so Brittany, we can only hear you at the moment. We can see everybody else. So you're in favor? Are you okay with the agenda, with the adoption of
Yes.
the late? Okay,
Yes, thank you.
all in favor, please. Hands up.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Carried. Okay. First item on the agenda, and I'm sure everybody's read through this, so it's the letter from the City of Penticton regarding the hydro relief, BC Hydro Relief. On April the 16th, 2020, the City of Penticton sent a letter to Premier John Horgan regarding BC Hydro's COVID-19 relief program and the inequity it is creating across the province. The City of Nelson was copied on the correspondence along with the other municipalities and our own electrical utilities. And we do have, I'm sure you've all read the letter, and we do have Alex here to give us a little bit of an update on that. So Alex, if you want to give council a little bit of an update or some background, you're more than welcome to do so.
Okay, yeah, I won't say much other than just to say that for sure this inequity is a concern for all the municipal utilities and Fortis as well, in that there's a risk we might all pay for BC Hydro's benefits. And I think that the letter that Penticton said is actually very helpful to us, because we expect that in a year or so, there will be a utility commission hearing about paying for BC Hydro's program. And a letter such as this will help to show that the lack of equity is a concern and does need to be addressed. And the commission will have tools at its disposal to address it, but it will definitely need to see the need for addressing that and making sure that the costs are repaid on a fair basis. I don't really see any downside supporting the letter, and I see some benefits supporting it. And that was really about all I had to offer, unless anybody has some questions.
Yeah, so Councillor Page, you're up.
Yeah, when we saw this letter go through, it seemed pretty fair request and something I think we should support. So I would like to move a motion that council directs staff to draft and submit a letter of support to the City of Penticton's petition for a relief subsidy for all ratepayers.
Sorry, Councillor Lochtenberg. Yeah, thank you. So we have a seconder. Any further questions of Alex at this point? Hearing none. All in favor? Thank you very much. Brittany, you're okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brittany. Okay, next on the agenda is West Kootenay Regional Airport, and this is a similar request from Castlegar. Alex, are we going to need you later on, or are you?
No.
You can
No,
probably.
I think that was it for me.
Yeah, you can probably do a disappearing act then.
I'll do that. Thanks.
Okay, see you, Alex. Thanks a lot. Yeah. The City of Castlegar is seeking financial support from the federal and provincial governments to help offset revenue losses to West Kootenay Regional Airport caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The City of Castlegar has asked the City of Nelson to consider submitting a letter supporting its position. And there is a recommendation there if you wish to. If somebody wished to support it or not. Janice, and second by Cal. Either one of you wish to comment? Okay, Jesse, sorry. Janice, did you wish to comment?
Yes, as the mover, I just say that I think it's important to send this letter of support. We need the West Kootenay Regional Airport, and we don't want to lose the services there for multiple reasons.
Thank you. Jesse, you had your hand up also.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, I think that's Brittany's. It may be Brittany's concoction that she has going up there. I'm not sure what it is, but. Oh, there you are, Brittany. Yeah.
It's my fault. I have to use my iPad, unfortunately. The camera's not working on my device, and I was trying to do a switch over. I had it on mute, but for somehow it was still making that horrible sound.
We thought you were on the moon or something, Mars or someplace. All right, Jesse. Jesse, okay, let's hear you.
Okay, is it working?
Pardon?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Janice and Cal.
Yes.
All right, we can hear you.
so my question is, we're drafting this letter in support. I'm just curious if anybody can fill me on this. Is that if the main problem is Air Canada is not flying into the airport anymore. So really, like, the airport is not functioning because Air Canada's decision. Is it a binary situation where if Air Canada comes back and flies in again, it'll be back to normal, or is there a bigger problem here?
Okay, I can't answer that, to be honest with you, Jesse. I don't think there's a bigger problem. I think the airport was doing quite well financially till the flights were cancelled, and all planes that land in Castlegar and take off pay a fee, a landing fee, and they help cover the cost of operation. But to be honest with you, I couldn't go much further into the details than that, other than speaking with the mayor last week and the mayor of Trail. According to the mayor of Castlegar, he was saying that it's draining their surplus they had built up for the airport for management and maintenance. Keith.
Mayor Dooley. On the one hand, I'm wondering, like, I am in support of this letter, and I think we need to support our partners in our local region with the assets that they have. My question would be along the lines of, are they restricted under regulation from building up a reserve or contingency to carry them through these kinds of times? Because I think our airports are one of those places where sometimes they are very busy during them, and sometimes they're blocked off. So, like, as a business utility, obviously off the side of Castlegar, is there enough, like a contingency fund? Are they charging enough on these fees to carry them through months of disruption, which is feasibly something that will happen again in the next decade? I would wonder.
So in our case here, they're just asking for our support. They're not asking for money from us. And that's something that, that'll be up to them to decide how they want to fund it or how they want to build up reserves. We just need to let them know if we support their application to the feds to try and get some relief. Anyway, that was a good point, though. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Thanks very much, everybody.
Mr. Mayor, just maybe at this, do we want to add to that? Where you suggested that we actually ask the feds to look at how do they enhance that airport when it reopens with better landing or whatever it is. So we do that.
It probably wouldn't hurt. We could make that as a second motion if somebody felt comfortable with it. It might be a good opportunity actually to ask the feds to put funding towards better landing, improving reliability of the airport. Yeah. If somebody wanted to put something like that forward, Cal. Okay, we've better come up with some wording here in a hurry. So we would include in the letter, we'd request that the feds also look at the option of improving reliability to the Castlegar Airport as well. Does that sound fair, Cal?
That sounds good.
Yeah. So I need a seconder though, Cal, before you go any further.
Oh, sorry.
Jesse, thank you. So you got a mover and a seconder. Thanks. Go ahead, Cal.
I'm having trouble with my agenda notes, but is Rob Morrison on a copy of that letter? I'm assuming he is.
Yeah, good question.
Cannings.
There, it's Bilborough and it's
he's not in there. He's not in their catchment area.
He should.
We'll CCR.
Right.
It's Cannings is the MP for Castlegar.
But we would include.
If we're sending the letter, should we not include him in a copy?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah,
we should. Yeah.
Good pick.
That's all.
Okay. Is that okay with the seconder? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Brittany. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh, can't hear you, Brittany.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so one of my questions would be the cost of upgrading the airport. My understanding it's somewhere $20 million. I think I recall that number somewhere. No?
No, no. I
How
think
much?
they had a consultant do it. I think it's around 300,000. There's two pieces to the puzzle there, just so you know. There's a landing technology, but the bigger issue is the ceiling height. So it doesn't cost anything to lower the ceiling height, but you have to have the technology in place to be able to do that. And the last word I got was Jim Gauck did a study on it, and it was around 300,000. So, but we could check on that.
Yeah, so there are two pieces to this. There's Air Canada needs to have the technology in their planes,
Of course, yeah.
and they came up with, I forget what the terminology, but it's a different approach and takeoff, which would be specifically designed for that airport. So one of the challenges, they would have to train whatever pilot that flies into this airport on that approach and takeoff. And so those are the hurdles. So Air Canada they can't fly the Twin Otters in here. They have to fly the Q400s, and they need an approved,
It's actually better with the light off.
approved approach and
For now, till it gets
takeoff.
dark,
That has to be approved by the Transport Canada, I guess it is. And then Air Canada would have to agree to train their pilots to be able to come in on that approach.
Can I ask
Yes.
a question?
Yes, Mayor, yeah.
So if, I mean, I definitely think this is a great opportunity to get reliability up, but I'm wondering, the airport is not a money-making venture for Air Canada, as far as I understand it. It's it actually kind of, I don't know if it costs them money, but it's not a big money maker. So in a way, it would have to be subsidized for them to do all that work, essentially from the federal government. Is that correct?
Well, they're actually phasing out of the Dash 8 plane, and we could wait till till they're phased out, and then the next group of planes they're buying, and they started already, is the Q400. So it's a supply and demand issue. But right now, it's highly unlikely that we ordering too many planes at the moment. But they did have a plan to eventually get Q400s flying into most of these airports. But having said that, even if they did have the Q400, they still would need the landing equipment at the airport to make that work. Yeah.
And
Keith?
just to add to that, so one of the studies that Castlegar did was to look at how many of us choose an alternative place to do our air transportation business, and it's a significant bleed out of that airport. We go to Spokane, Cranbrook, Kelowna, Vancouver, Calgary, all places because of the reliability.
Okay, Keith, you had your hand up?
I'm just going to link the fact that I'm in full support of the letter that Castlegar has had, but I think maybe we want to have a broader discussion of the value the airport is delivering to the region. Just in reflection of the situation we're dealing with now, a more reliable airport would not have been an asset. And that's what's prompting us to even ask for money to be spent investing in a more reliable airport. And as we're seeing from this letter, like the fees to acquiesce, I would assume, to Air Canada so they can continue to fly the airport don't provide enough cushion to sustain the airport through a rough time like that. They're paycheck to paycheck as some small businesses are. So that's also concerning. So maybe we would want to sit and think about how much 20 million is and what it can do for something else, and whether or not this is where we want the feds to be investing 20 million, especially when we're not being asked by the city of Castlegar to provide that additional input on their utility or their service. But I just would advocate for a little bit more thought on that part of it.
I don't know where the 20 million is definitely not a number that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that number came from, to be honest with you. But good question, though. So back to the motion on the table, and the motion is, Sarah?
To include
Right, okay. Okay, so all in favor? Carried. Do we need to go to the main motion? Or just as included in? Okay, very good. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. Okay, next is UBCM Community.
Sorry, Mayor, the Salgar letter.
Right. Do you want to put that in next? Late item?
The request, yeah.
Okay, the next one is the letter from Selgar, and hopefully you folks have a chance to read it. On the letter, you'll notice at the end, the signatories are would be should council agree. Myself, however, and then it'll be the Mayor of Castlegar, the Mayor of Trail, the Mayor of Roslin, the Mayor of Caslow, and Amy Watson, the Chair of the Regional District of Central Kootenay. And all of us were on a call with Mercer this past week, and each person on that list agreed that they would support a letter from Mercer going to the provincial government. But subject to approval by their councils or the Regional District Board. So we would need a mover and a seconder to support this letter or not. Moved by Councillor Renwick, Councillor Morrison second. Questions or comments from the mover or seconder? Did everybody get a chance to read this? Okay. Okay, Jesse's the first one with his hand up.
John, just sorry to answer your question. No, I haven't, and I'm reading it right now.
Okay, good. Okay. Put your right hand up the next time, Rick. It's easier to see. Your left one's out of the camera. Okay. All right, Jess, go ahead.
So, from the letter, so essentially the core of it is that Selgar is having trouble getting fiber stock. Is that correct?
Wood chips, yeah.
Wood chips.
Yeah.
So, I guess I just feel there's a certain amount of uncomfortability for me because this is a private company asking for relief, and that is, that's, I know this is an extraordinary time, but it's very loaded to have private companies looking for bailout. So I'm just curious. Would anybody be able to fill me in more on maybe there was more that was in the phone call that we didn't receive?
There's not very much in the phone call other than what was in the letter, to be honest with you. The reality is that they have to get wood to the mill to chip it to keep the mill viable. It's just that simple. And right now, what's happening to them, they're chipping logs that they normally would run through the sawmill. They're now chipping them for pulp. And they believe that they can actually add to that fiber inventory. One of those simple ways to do it is increase the load capacity on their logging trucks, and to be able to haul in fiber that can go through the pulp mill rather than good wood that goes through the sawmill, to make a long story short.
And the other one is that they shared on the call was they're just asking for their power purchase contract with BC Hydro to be extended one additional year to give them the opportunity to negotiate something. I think the mayor said they were working with Fortis on that as well. So, and they also shared that their mill in Kootenay has the same contract till 2030. So it would be, because of this, buying them that relief. I think you saw in the material that that's a significant part of their
profit margin
of their company is to be able to generate green power off that wood waste and black liquor, and they just need a year's grace to be able to manage that. And Katrine Conroy, the MP, is also supporting this, taking it to cabinet, and she mentioned that this will be dealt with. This isn't just a Mercer issue, this is all across the province, and she believes cabinet will be dealing with it this Wednesday. So any letter of support is super timely. As far as supporting private business, that's not abnormal for local governments looking at major employers. Every single community that has a major employer that's being impacted, and I would say we probably do have one, which is more around our hospitality industry, that we would be looking at some support for that sector as well. So I wouldn't say that's abnormal.
So they're not actually, if you read the letter, Council, if you have a look at what they wrote here, they're not actually asking for more wood.
Right.
They're actually asking to get their hands on the same allocation that they've currently got. So, Councillor Page, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Lochtenberg.
I guess we kind of should have left Alex on the call maybe, because there's some questions about how this power is feeding into the grid. So I think Jesse's point is well taken on this end, at least, that a big part of this is really that they're making that money off of that existing capacity as they process that fiber. So it's the loss of revenue and the electrical generation being sent back out to the grid that appears to be the thing that they're very concerned about when they're planning their operational budget. I guess I would have a question: is these sawmills that are shutting down and not able to keep processing because of this downturn are what we're asking for from our ministers small enough that some of the other people in the supply chain feeding into this factor, into Celgars, are actually also getting a little bit of that green energy revenue? Or are they kind of cut out of being able to play in that game and thus more susceptible to cutting off their fiber supply to Celgar? Are we taking care of the little guys under here?
Well, if I would imagine that if they're not operating, the little guys will be gone. It would just be that simple.
That's all my question is are the little guys that are cut, that Celgar is not able to get stock from, are they actually able to participate in the same revenue scheme that Celgar is participating in? Because maybe that would provide more resiliency long term.
I think it's more the bigger players, right? It's the Canfors and the, which is again, lumber prices, I think, more than anything is, and certainly up their catchment area doesn't include the north, so I'm not sure if the beetle kill has a big impact or not.
No, not really.
But I think it's, Talco is shut down, Canfor had shut down, Interfor. It's the larger mills that really are seeing that impact as opposed to the porcupines and Klesnikovs, right?
Yeah, the independents are managing through it. Lumber today was about 350 1,000, so it's stabilized a little bit. It was higher, but it's stabilized in around that for the last couple of months. So, but in their case, their biggest challenge going forward is, can they get an extension of this agreement with BC Hydro? That's the biggest challenge.
This is for a year.
And this is for a year. That's all they're asking for. And you see on the letter there that on the last paragraph on the first page, Katrine Conroy is very supportive of supporting this moving forward. And she was adamant on the phone call that if anybody was going to step up, they needed to do it by Wednesday, because that's when she's going to advocate to Cabinet to make this happen. So if we wish to move forward with it, we need to do it tonight. Otherwise, we might as well stick it on our back pocket and deal with it later on. So Jesse, you had a question also? Sorry, Rick was next. I beg your pardon. Rick, sorry, okay. Rick was next.
Yeah.
I have a bit of challenges with this letter and putting it forward for a few reasons. Number one is, in general, as long as 3- and 4-ply toilet paper exists in the world, this whole pulp industry I really struggle with. But joking aside, John, I'd like to see it would be great if we could somehow see a bit more in the background here. I feel like I'm operating a bit in the dark. Like I support the idea of the right log to the right mill and supporting our family-owned mills, but Mercer is not a family-owned mill. This is a major international corporation that, in general, their business practices, from what I understand, again, not being an expert in this at all, I'll put that out there. My understanding is that these kind of moments when you have downturns in the economy or you have sort of interruptions in sort of business as usual is a big opportunity for some of these companies to come in and make demands that they then hold on to for the long term. It's sort of like that notion of seize the moment when things are confused and clouded, or when politically governments are looking to spend stimulus money and offer breaks wherever they can. That's when a big company like Mercer would come in and make its big demands. Not saying they're doing that here in any way. It's just that I feel like I just don't know if this is not. And again, not to say anything negative about the guys at Selgar. It's just it would be smart business to take any opportunity you can to deliver shareholder value. I just don't feel like I know enough about the situation to.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
I think. Yeah. Sorry, Rick. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would just say, and I fully understand why Castlegar and Katrina Conroy would be behind this. I mean, this is their constituents. There's, and maybe we have some people in Nelson who work for Selgar as well. It's just,
believe it or not.
Yeah, this is where I feel like I would really benefit from a little education here. Yeah. I'll just be honest. I can read the letter, but I don't. I would be voting in the dark. Based on. I just don't know enough.
Okay, Sarah, do you want to put Rick in the dark there? So I think the main focus of the letter is, if you look at the 3 bullet points on the middle of the first page. So they're not asking for this for ever and a day. They're asking for this temporary fix, just get them through the next 12 months, because that's the critical crossroads for them. So even on the power purchase, they're not asking for that to go on indefinitely. They're just asking for a 12-month extension. One of the reasons they're asking for that is they're currently in talks with Fortis to see if they can work out some agreement with them. And if you remember, we had Bill McPherson here. He made a presentation to the Committee of the Whole, and they have some big plans there for a whole new energy program at that mill anyway. So Brittany, sorry, Rick, go ahead.
It was just a follow-up, if you supplemental on that. Yeah. So can you, speaking to the first point, I understand the power purchase agreement with BC Hydro. I think that's something we've talked about before. Yeah. I don't understand why do they need additional logs as opposed to, is it that they get a better price from pulping the logs, and so they would love to see that they don't have to process the logs? Like what's the reason specifically for looking for
it's the power.
Yeah. Janice, go ahead, Janice. I think you want to jump in, and then Brittany's up next.
Sorry, I don't want to butt in on anybody. So a couple of things there is that Mayor Dooley was correct in talking about the employment in our region, because they buy most of their wood via BC Timber Sales, which is basically what the 4 Mile office does. They do employ 450 people at the mill there. Not all of them live in Castlegar, and I think we have to think regionally in supporting some of these issues. And I'm trying to think about how to answer Rick's question about the wood. It's what they're having to do now is go out and look at getting loggers to log trees that would normally go to a sawmill plant and get turned into 2x4s. And because sawmill plants are on a downturn, and many have been shut down, not because of COVID. I mean, we knew on the coast sawmill plants have been closing like crazy in the last year. They're going to be using those good quality trees and turning them into pulp, which isn't what they want to do, but to keep the volume of chip that they need coming in to keep the doors open at Mercer, they need to be taking these better quality trees, for lack of a better word, out of the forest to try to continue to run their operation. And just for those that, I mean, yes, we're supporting a private business. If they can't get an extension of their power sales, which is a big part of their operation, for a matter of fact, talking with Bill McPherson, is that 53% of what they process through the mill becomes electricity, and 47% of it becomes fiber. And that 53% of electricity is worth $6.7 million in revenue to the company. So Yeah, it's a big business, but sometimes we have to support big businesses because they have potential effects on all of our small communities, and they go not just out to the forest here next door to gather their wood. It's a Celgar has impact over all of the southeast of British Columbia.
So for those of you who may or may not be familiar with it, the federal and provincial governments actually help fund the cogen plant at Celgar in the first place. Well, and it's kind of ironic now that they wanted to get them into the green energy business, and now that they're in it, they want to boot them out of it at this point in time. But they believe they can stand on their own 2 feet, but they need to get through this year, and I think in that 12 months they'll probably come up with a deal with Fortis to sell power into their grid. So, Brittany, you're up. Brittany, are you there?
You can hear me now?
Yeah, there you are, yes.
I'm just trying to bounce between these two platforms. So I have no questions about supporting extending the power purchase agreement with BC Hydro for at least 1 year. I think that makes perfect sense. I question a little bit allowing a 10% weight increase to trucks. We know that that will, impact our roads. So there's, that balance between BC Hydro and then our highways. So that's something that I don't have enough information on. There's also the GHG question there. But the thing that I really do not understand, and I would love some clarity on, is the first point. With a fixed stumpage rate of 25 cents per cubic meter, what was the price previously? And to me, it looks like they are going to be sourcing whole logs and not other, so I'm just worried that this isn't the right log to the right mill, but rather, and I want to support them. I do not understand well enough how the system works, but I would love the explanation of the 25 cent per cubic meter and what the current rate is. That would just be helpful for me.
Yeah, so the stumpage allows them, the reduction in the stumpage, I'm not sure what it is now, Brittany, that's a good question. But getting the stumpage at 25 cents a meter allows them to take wood that can be pulped. And right now they end up buying wood through BC Timber Sales that they're paying a premium price for it, and it's generally good wood that probably should be going to Klesnikoff or Atco or one of the other mills, and they're throwing it through the pulp mill. So if they were able to get basically the scrapings, or I think they talked about in terms of the diameter, they can take wood that's being left in the forest right now, about 3-inch diameter. Pardon? 2 inches, yeah.
2 and 12 feet.
Yeah, 2 inches and 12 feet. They'd be able to take that out of the forest. Whereas with the stumpage rates they have now, they're going after the big wood because they have to try and recover their profits on the volume because of the size of the log.
And the piece on the axle weight that was addressed in the call, and no one felt that would be a problem. They're not on municipal roads. They're on obviously highways and forestry roads, and that they felt that wouldn't be an issue. I think the other thing that council needs to understand or to look at is both the Minister of Forests, Minister of Transportation, all those people will be part of this review, so they will be the ones that have that level of detail. So I think you could rely on them making those good decisions. I think what you're doing as a council saying, assuming those factors are taken into account, by the ministers and their staff, that you would support this, and they're not going to approve it if it doesn't make sense for other mills, or if it doesn't make sense for our highways and some of those other pieces. But they have the expertise to do that. We don't. So I think you're just putting this forward. Government, please have a good look at this and see if it makes sense from their perspective. If you want to couch it in terms of contingent on you know, the Ministry of Forest and Minister of Transportation ensuring there's no negative impacts on roads or other, you know, other sawmills looking for saw logs or something to that effect. You probably could do that.
Yeah.
The other thing they said for Councillor Lautenberg's information is they do want to work with, and I guess they already are working with some of the fuel mitigation work that's going on to, you know, they want all that wood. You know, their challenge is, you know, the cheapest way to deal with that is slash burn it, right? You know, you don't have to cut off all the branches and all that stuff. You know, they can't deal with branches, but they can certainly deal with anything that's, you know, the top of a tree that's, you know, 2 inches and 12 feet long. That's going into slash piles right now, and they're trying to work with the tenured companies that they're separating that material out, that they could pick it up. Going back, trying to get that out of a slash pile isn't obviously super effective, but they certainly do want to. They are working with them, and they are trying to work with, you know, people doing fuel mitigation work, that they would, you know, if they can get the fiber, they're quite happy to get it. They just can't pay saw log stumpage on pulp.
Pulp. That's really what it boils down to. Councillor Lautenberg.
John, you may have, or Janice or Kevin may have some insight into this. What has changed in the market since the COVID crisis? I'm assuming this was driven by the COVID crisis. It's not. This is entirely related to the stumpage fees and to the power purchase agreement?
Yeah, there's a couple of things at play here that have been going on for a number of years, and one is the stumpage. Unfortunately, the stumpage, the way it's set up at the moment, has a lot to do with the tariffs that the Americans put on the softwood lumber agreement, and that's where the biggest challenge will be to get any change made on the stumpage, because the Americans see our forest differently than theirs, because their forests for the most part are privately owned, and ours are owned by the people, and they claim that we adjust our stumpage accordingly, and it's not a market-driven stumpage, and probably it isn't market-driven, to be honest with you, because regardless of what the price of lumber is, the province doesn't change the stumpage. So when it goes up, they'll increase the stumpage, but when it goes down, they have a level that they don't go below. So right now the market it's not historically low, but it's on the lower side of where it normally sits. It was high around $600 a thousand here about a year ago, and it's dropped back now to, like I said, I would say $350 roughly. But it's always hung around $400, $420 for the most part. So they just want some flexibility on the stumpage side, so they can take pulpwood out of the forest. And right now they're forced into taking good Douglas fir that, as an example, Klesnikov could use to move it up the value chain and manufacture it into different types of products, and they're throwing that into a pulp mill.
So just for further clarification then, the designating this temporarily all logs delivered to pulp really has nothing to do with this present moment economically.
Right.
It's from what I understand, the pulp industry demand for pulp is as high as it's ever been.
That's right.
But it's related to the stumpage fee, which is set by the province. It's got nothing to do with current market conditions. There's a
Right.
flat line. And as a business, wouldn't they, knowing that what the stumpage fees are, and they're not going to change, it seems to me, and I'm not an expert here, this moment of asking for it right now and sort of driving this forward, what's changed fundamentally that now is the time to do this?
Well, first of all, one of the things I'd like to say on that, Rick, is that if you were to phone Craig Upper at Porcupine Lumber, they've been asking for flexibility on stumpage for years. All of these folks have been asking. This is not a new thing. In fact, and this letter, regardless of what council's decision is made this evening, this letter started when he came and made that presentation. When was the last time they were here? Before Christmas, wasn't it?
I think maybe January or maybe December.
Yeah, it might have been December when they were here last. So this conversation has been going on with them ever since. It's not a
Okay.
new, it's just coming to a head right now. And mainly it's been driven by the power purchase agreement, because that's going to change in the next few months. And all they're asking for is the extension for a year. And, but these are the other pieces of the puzzle they need to fit in as well to make sure that they can stay viable.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification.
Councillor Page.
I did look up the difference in prices for pulp versus solid.
Yeah, I see both of my colleagues' points here with this bullet point, in that it's the designating, it's the all logs, it's the price point. Like wording around this, if it's to go, as much as I can read this, whether someone wants to drag a big old growth tree in here and call it pulp versus pulling in a bunch of little small pieces and calling them pulp, like, could we not have better wording here? It was like clear on the accessing of the smaller pulp versus all logs. Like the all logs really opens the gate very wide. When as you're speaking to Mayor Dooley, the goal is to open up new abilities to get some of these logs on the smaller side. So it seems like the wording there could be more about getting the smaller logs and getting greater access to them, not
Yeah, I think
opening both bands.
I think Kevin hit the nail on the head. What'll happen to this is, and I happen to be fortunate enough to be part of some of these conversations over a few years. This will go before the ministry, the chief forester. This won't be dealt with by people like myself or this group here that are not up to speed on the industry in general. So they won't give them this permission. First of all, to haul 10% more on their trucks without speaking with the Ministry of Transportation. They won't change the stumpage rate without speaking to the chief forester, and he'll take into account the greater good. And they definitely won't make an adjustment on their power purchase without speaking to the Minister of Energy. So this is not going to happen. We're not going to redesign those three ministries with the conversation here at this meeting. I think what they're asking for here is, this is a fairly broad piece of conversation. They're asking for us to say, okay, have a look at it. If you support it, we're on side. If you don't support it, we're happy to stand behind your inquiry into their asks, and we're happy to stand behind that.
Can I make
Kevin.
maybe a suggestion? Do you want to qualify it seems the other two you're fine with, assuming the right oversight happens there. As far as the logs, do you want to qualify that, something to the effect, as long as, it supports the right log to the right mill concept?
That would make me feel better, for sure. And to Councillor Page's point about not having, say, big old growth logs as a part of that going into pulp, because we're concerned about raw log exports. Well, the cousin to that is just sort of raw pulp exports too. So
yeah, exactly.
And I did look up the rates. So SPF, spruce, pine, fir, $54 for pulpwood, $78 for sawlog, larch, $88 for sawlog, $45 for pulp, and hemlock, balsam, $78 for sawlogs, $45 for pulp. And I think that concept means, right, you're paying less because it can't be put through a mill. And I think that's really the issue. If they have to use sawlogs, I think they also said right now they use 30% of that turns into chips from a sawmill. So maybe we just qualify it with that, and otherwise maybe just defeat it or pass the first two.
Well,
I'm okay. I don't know if you need an amendment or something, but about the qualifying with the right log to the right mill, that helps me.
Okay, and Jesse had a comment before we go there. Rick, thanks for that. You got that? Jess, you're up.
So my comment is, there's a long history of corporate entities getting advantages for them in the public realm like this, and then not going back to what it was. There's a long history of that, and companies try to do that all the time, try to get an advantage for themselves so that when times are good, they're making lots of money. And so I think my uncomfortableness here is this is a giant global corporation, and yes, they support a local area here in a region with employment. But my concern here with this whole piece with the logs is that they will just continue to do it, whatever they need to do, and it's the public realm that will suffer. So I feel like there has to be, for me personally, to feel comfortable, there has to be some kind of amendment on that there's a sunset clause on this, or that they aren't going to have more profit in a year or two because we all were like, yeah, this is a great decision. They'll be like, yeah, we're making more money now, and it's easier for us as a corporation. That happens all the time, and I feel quite wary here.
Thank you. Okay, so Sarah, could you give me an idea, a bit of an update on where we're at here? So we added Rick's recommending. Sorry,
we didn't have a seconder on that.
We had
Maybe we don't want one.
we had a mover in a second.
They move in a second on the main motion.
On the main motion, yeah. And you want to put that in as a friendly amendment, Rick?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So that would be some wording to make sure that the right law goes to the right mill.
Yeah, I've got that down.
You got that down?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to read out? Yeah. So Gabe's going to read out the motion as it would read should you decide to support it.
Well, just for the sake of efficiency, it's the main motion as noted in the staff report with the addition, and further that the letter include a qualifier that the support is contingent on the idea of the right log to the right mill principle.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? All in favor? Opposed? None? Thank you very much. Thanks very much. You know, we had a presentation that was lined up with the BC Forest Service, and they changed their mind on that, Sarah, from 3 Mile, from BC Timber Sales.
To come?
Yeah. Yeah, they wrote to me. But when the COVID thing broke out, they were supposed to come to committee the whole, and the COVID thing broke out. They said to hang on, postpone it for a month or so, and then we'll come. So when they come, which is probably going to be,
I'm connecting with,
yeah,
I have been, we've been keeping in
yeah.
touch.
So Sarah has been in touch with them, and they'll come. And you know what they actually wanted to do with us was I suggested they do a bit of a workshop actually, and I think we'd all learn from. Pardon?
Field trip.
Yeah, field trip, exactly. Well, they're willing to do that as well, actually, a field trip if we're interested. So, and I think we'd all learn from that if we decided to do it. So, we'll keep you in touch and when they want to come back. And if council's interested, we could easily put a field trip as part of the conversation, and we could do a workshop around just how does the whole system work. You know, the BC timber sales, how wood's allocated, who gets it, who has tenure, who doesn't have tenure, how the bidding system works and so forth. I think that'd be it'd be a good learning experience for all of us. Okay. Thank you. Is that it? One more. Oh yeah, UBCM resolution.
Just for
Okay.
time's sake, I'll move that motion because we've only got 8 minutes to finish this meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and John, on that note, I need probably 5 minutes before 7. Go to the bathroom and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good. So moved and second? Second by Councillor Page. All in favor? Carried. Thanks very much.
So we should recess, we have to go in camera.
Yeah.
So we can just.
Yeah, so I wonder, a motion to recess. Moved by Councillor Page, second by Councillor Woodward. All in favor? Carried. So the in-camera portion of the meeting will have to be after, right?
After, yep, so,
Closed portion we'll do after, okay, guys? So you have 5 minutes.
so.
Thanks, John. And Sarah, can you email me anything that I need to read? John, because I'm chairing the cow, I guess.
No, you didn't get my email. Rick.
You sent an email.
I sent you an email.
You can, I think it might be more efficient if I chaired it from here, Rick, but it's up to you.
Sure.
Rick, because it's quite
No, I'm happy if you want to chair it, John.
Yeah,
It gets quite complicated because we're trying to do this virtually, so.
That's all.
The other
Good
thing,
for me.
the other thing on that note, I know you got to go to the washroom. However, in the future, if you want to come in for the cow meetings, you're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I got Sarah's email at
Yeah.
just like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.